Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. We're going to be diving into something today that's kind of quietly shaping the world all around us. It's data and analytics. And we're using a script from a YouTube podcast called Data Decoded as like our starting point for this. And believe me, this is going to be way more interesting than like just staring at a spreadsheet, I promise. We're going to uncover how data is influencing everything from those like oddly specific Netflix recommendations to the absolute cutting edge of healthcare. And hey, maybe we'll even discover how you can become a citizen data scientist.
It's true. Data really is everywhere these days. And I think this script starts off really smartly by clarifying what we even mean when we say data and analytics, because those words get thrown around so much.
Yeah, that's true. So like data is just information, right? But what makes it data specifically and not just like random stuff?
Well, the script defines it as raw information. It's helpful to think of it as like structured information, though. Like, think about the numbers in your bank account, the text in a book, the pixels in a photo, even the temperature reading from your smart thermostat. That's all data. It's kind of like the raw ingredients, just waiting to be transformed into something amazing.
Okay, so it's like the building blocks of something bigger. I got it. But we don't just hoard information, right? We do something with it. That's where the analytics part comes in, yeah.
Exactly. Analytics is basically like the process of turning that raw data into insights that we can actually use to do something. The script uses Netflix as an example, which is a good one because we all use Netflix, right?
Wow.
They gather data on all your viewing habits, like what you watch, how you rate things, even when you pause or rewind. And then they have this analytics engine that finds all these hidden patterns in the data to recommend new shows and movies that you might like.
It's like they have a secret decoder ring for our brains or something. I always wondered how they knew I'd be so obsessed with that weird documentary about 1970s skateboarding. Ha ha.
See, that's the power of analytics. It's finding the stories that are hidden in the data. And the thing is, this isn't just about entertainment, right? This script really drives home the point that data and analytics are impacting every industry you can think of. Like, hospitals are using what's called predictive analytics to identify patients who are at high risk of things like heart attacks, just by analyzing things like their age, their lifestyle, their genetic predisposition, all that stuff. And this allows doctors to intervene way earlier and potentially save lives. And that's just one example. There are so many.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So we're talking about some seriously important stuff here. It's not just about helping me pick out a rom-com for Friday night. But I guess, how does this impact me, the average person just going about their day?
That's a great question. You see, data and analytics are really leveling the playing field these days. It's giving individuals and small businesses the same power to make really informed decisions as those giant corporations. Think about your local coffee shop, right?
Right.
They can use data to see which pastries are the most popular and then adjust their baking schedule based on that. It helps them reduce waste and make sure there's always a fresh croissant waiting for you when you go in.
Okay, so it's like data analysis is giving everyone a superpower. Like you can suddenly see things other people can't and make smarter choices because of it. I like that. But how do we actually go from this giant pile of data to those aha moments where we unlock those insights?
Well, the script breaks it down into what they call the data journey, and it basically has three main stages. They are data collection, data processing, and then finally data analysis.
Okay, a journey, huh? I'm ready. Lead the way. Where does this data adventure begin?
Well, it all starts with gathering that raw information from all sorts of different sources. It could be surveys, sensors, social media posts, online shopping behavior, anything, really. The possibilities are kind of endless. But the script makes a really good point that it's not just about quantity, right? The quality of the data you have is super important. If you're using inaccurate or irrelevant data, you're going to end up with some pretty misleading conclusions.
It's like baking a cake, right? You start with rotten eggs. It doesn't matter how much flour you add, the cake is going to be a disaster.
Yeah.
So what happens after we've gathered all this data? Do we just stare at it and hope that inspiration strikes?
Not quite. The next step is called data processing, and it basically involves cleaning and organizing all that data you've collected. This is where you get rid of any duplicates, you fix errors, and just make sure everything is consistent. It's kind of like prepping your ingredients before you start cooking. You wouldn't just throw everything in the pot without washing and chopping it first, right? It's kind of a crucial step that often gets overlooked.
All right, it's like a little data spring cleaning. But this is starting to sound like the part where things could get really technical.
Yeah.
Is this where the programmers come in with all their fancy code and algorithms?
You're on the right track. The final stage of the data journey is data analysis. And this is where we use tools and software to actually find the meaning that's hidden in all those numbers. It could be something as simple as creating charts and graphs in Excel, or it could involve more advanced tools like Python. Python's a programming language that people use to write these scripts that can just like sift through mountains of data and find patterns that would take humans ages to find on their own.
So it's like having a superpowered detective on the case, sniffing out clues in the data. But what makes a good data analyst? Is it just about knowing how to use the right software?
Well, the technical skills are important for sure. But the script really emphasizes that the real magic of data analysis comes from asking the right questions in the first place. The most insightful data analysts are the ones who are curious and creative thinkers. They can see the bigger picture and tell the stories behind the numbers.
So it's like being a data storyteller.
Yeah.
We can have all the data in the world,
Yeah.
but it's useless if we don't know what questions we're trying to answer, right? Like having a map but not knowing your destination. Speaking of journeys, though, I have a feeling there might be some bumps in the road ahead on this data journey. Does the script talk about any challenges that come with living in this, like, increasingly data-driven world?
It does, yeah. And I think it's really important to acknowledge those challenges. I'd say one of the biggest ones is data overload. We
Yeah.
are absolutely bombarded with information from every direction these days, and it can be completely overwhelming to try and make sense of it all. It's like trying to drink from a fire hose. You might get a little water, but you're also probably going to end up soaked and disoriented.
Oh, I know that feeling all too well. So how do we navigate this data deluge without, getting swept away? Is there like a life raft or something we can cling to?
Definitely. The script suggests that it's all about having a clear goal in mind and a solid strategy before you even start diving into the data.
What?
You need to know what questions you're trying to answer and what insights you're hoping to uncover. Otherwise, you just risk getting lost in the data without actually gaining any real value from it.
Okay, so it's about being focused and intentional, not just randomly clicking on links and hoping that something useful pops up. Makes sense. But with all this talk of gathering data, it does make you wonder, is anyone actually looking out for our privacy in all this?
You're right to raise that concern. It's definitely a balancing act between harnessing all the power of data while also safeguarding our individual rights.
So what does the script say about keeping our data safe? Are there any, like, guardrails in place?
Well, they mention regulations like GDPR and CCPA, which are specifically designed to protect user data and give individuals more control over how their information is being used. In Europe, for example, GDPR gives you the right to access all the data that companies are collecting about you, and you can even request that they delete it entirely.
So it's like we have a digital bouncer making sure these companies are handling our data responsibly. It's good to know. But, I've also heard that data itself can be biased. Is that something this script touches on at all?
Absolutely. The script acknowledges that data is never truly neutral. It can reflect a lot of the existing biases we have in society, which can lead to some pretty flawed insights and even perpetuate harmful stereotypes if we're not careful.
Right, that makes sense. Like, if a company's only collecting data from a certain demographic, their conclusions might not be accurate for everyone else. It's like trying to understand the whole world just by looking at your own backyard. So how do we avoid falling into these data traps?
Well, I think diversity and critical thinking are absolutely key. We need to make sure we're considering different perspectives and constantly questioning our own assumptions to make sure we're not accidentally perpetuating those harmful biases.
So it's not just about crunching numbers, it's about using our human judgment and our ethics to guide the process.
Exactly. Data can be incredibly powerful, but we have to approach it thoughtfully and responsibly.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And speaking of powerful, I'm curious. The script ends by teasing the future of data and analytics. Are we talking flying cars and robot butlers powered by algorithms anytime soon?
Haha, maybe not quite that futuristic, but it's definitely a really exciting time to be in the data world. The script highlights some truly incredible advancements that are happening in artificial intelligence and machine learning, and those advancements are pushing the boundaries of what's even possible with data these days.
Oh yeah, AI. That's the stuff that's always making headlines, with self-driving cars and computers that can beat us at chess. But how is AI actually changing the game when it comes to data?
Well, you see, AI algorithms can analyze huge amounts of data in the blink of an eye and spot patterns and insights that humans might completely miss. Imagine AI systems that can predict market trends with unbelievable accuracy, optimize supply chains to eliminate waste, or even diagnose diseases faster and more effectively than ever before.
Wow, that's kind of blowing my mind a little bit. It's like having an army of super smart data analysts working 24/7. But does this mean we'll all be replaced by robots soon?
Not necessarily. In fact, the script actually suggests that AI might create a bunch of new opportunities for humans.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How so?
Well, they talk about the rise of what they're calling citizen data scientists. Basically, these are everyday people who are using data and analytics to solve problems, even if they don't have formal training in data science.
Citizen data scientists. So, like, anyone can be a data detective these days. Sign me up.
Exactly. There are all these intuitive, user-friendly tools becoming available, which means that data analysis is more accessible now than it's ever been before. Imagine a marketing manager using data to track how effective their ad campaigns are, or a teacher using data to understand how their students are performing, or even a community group using data to advocate for change in their neighborhood. The possibilities are huge.
That's amazing. It's like putting the power of data into the hands of the people who can actually make a real difference. Oh, but wait. What about all those smart devices we hear so much about? Are they part of this whole data revolution too?
You're talking about the Internet of Things, right? Or IoT for short. It's that whole network of billions of devices that are all connected to the internet, constantly collecting and sharing data.
Ah, yes, the IoT. It seems like everything is getting smart these days, from refrigerators that order groceries for you to fitness trackers that monitor your heart rate.
Mhm.
But where does all that data go and what happens to it?
That's where things get really interesting. The IoT is basically creating this avalanche of data, which is creating all these unprecedented opportunities for innovation.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat here. Give me some examples. What kind of magic can we create with all this interconnected data?
Well, just imagine smart cities that use data to optimize traffic flow and reduce energy consumption, or personalized healthcare plans that are tailored to your unique genetic makeup and lifestyle, or even farms that use sensors and data to optimize their crop yields and reduce their water usage.
Wow, it sounds like we're on the verge of a data-driven utopia. But with all these advancements, it's important to remember those challenges we were talking about earlier, right? Like privacy, bias, data overload, all that stuff. Those are some pretty serious issues that we need to be really careful about.
You're absolutely right. As we embrace the amazing potential of data and analytics, we need to be doing it responsibly and ethically. It's a conversation that needs to be happening at every level, from individuals to corporations to governments.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about how we use it and what values we embed in it as we go.
Exactly. And that brings us back to this idea that data literacy is a superpower. The
Huh.
more we understand about data and analytics, the better equipped we'll be to navigate this increasingly data-driven world and actually use data for good.
I love that. Data literacy as a superpower. It's not about everyone becoming a data scientist. It's about everyone understanding how data works, how it can be used, and how to be a critical consumer of the information that's coming at us.
Well said. And that's actually a perfect transition to the next part of our deep dive. We're going to explore how this data revolution is impacting our lives in ways we might not even realize, and also what the future might hold for all this.
Sounds fascinating. But for now, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back to continue our data adventure in just a moment. Welcome back, everyone. So before the break, we were kind of laying the groundwork, defining what data and analytics are all about. But I'm ready to see this in action. Like, what are some actual concrete examples of how this stuff is making a difference out there in the real world?
Okay, well, remember that example we were talking about earlier with the coffee shop using data to see which pastries are selling the best? Well, now imagine that they're using that data not just to see what's popular, but to actually predict how many of each pastry they'll need to bake each day. And they could base those predictions on things like the weather, local events that are happening, even what people are saying on social media. That's next level.
Right. So they're not just reacting to what's already happened. They're using data to actually look ahead and plan for the future. That's pretty slick. Any other examples of how data is like making everyday life a little bit smoother?
Well, think about all those personalized recommendations you get online these days, not just for movies on Netflix, but for everything. Products you might like, articles you should read, even like potential matches you might be interested in on dating apps. That's all data analysis working behind the scenes, trying to like anticipate your needs and interests.
It's like having a personal shopper for, well, everything. But those recommendations are only as good as the data that's feeding into them, right?
Exactly. That's why data quality is so crucial. If the data is biased or inaccurate, those recommendations could be way off base. But let's zoom out a little bit and talk about how data is transforming like entire industries, not just individual experiences.
Okay, yeah. Hit me with some big picture examples.
Yeah.
Where are we seeing data make the most impact?
Well, healthcare is definitely one of the most exciting areas. We already touched on how predictive analytics can help identify patients who are at risk for heart attacks, but it goes way deeper than that. Imagine using data to create personalized treatment plans for people, track their progress in real time, and even predict how effective different therapies might be for them.
So we're moving away from this like one-size-fits-all approach to medicine and towards something that's actually tailored to each individual person. That's amazing.
It is, and AI is playing a huge role in this. AI algorithms can analyze massive amounts of medical data, like patient records, research papers, even genetic information, and find all these hidden patterns and insights that human doctors might miss.
It's like having a team of like superpowered medical detectives working around the clock to improve patient outcomes. Pretty cool. What other fields are getting this AI-powered makeover?
Well, data is transforming pretty much every industry you can think of. Finance, manufacturing, transportation, energy, you name